Hey, good evening and welcome to Freedom Speech and You. I'm your host, Ken, and Andrea will be along shortly. Tonight we're going to discuss the gun topic because we frankly need to. There is a lot of problems in the United States due to the fact that we have a free and easy way to get guns everywhere. So, welcome, Deidre. Yes, we have Deidre here tonight. Hopefully, we'll have others join us. I understand, however, that we're running against other shows that are on right now, so they might not join us until we get to the next hour. But we'll see who shows up tonight. Feel free to invite your friends, Deidre, and we'll see who shows up. And so we're going to talk about the gun topic. And we're going to hope that Andrea checks in very soon. And so let me get the gun topic set up here on the share. So set up the share screen. Okay. So there is the shared screen, and we need to adjust that a little bit. And I can pull myself down to a smaller window, or I can take myself out entirely so it's easier to see. So in the Uvalde shooting, there's an article here on the Texas Tribune that says Texas Senate Democrats call for a special session to raise age to purchase gun require universal background checks. All 13 Senate Democrats demanded lawmakers pass legislation that raises the minimum age to purchase a firearm, requires universal background checks, among other measures. The Texas Senate Democratic caucus is urging Governor Greg Abbott to call an emergency special legislative session to consider a variety of gun restrictions and safety measures in the wake of a mass school shooting in Uvalde that left 19 children and 2 adults dead this week. In a letter released Saturday morning, all 13 Senate Democrats demanded lawmakers pass legislation that raises the minimum age to purchase a firearm from 18 to 21 years of age. The Uvalde gunman was 18 and purchased 2 AR-style rifles, which he used in the attack. The caucus is also calling for universal background checks for all firearms sales, red flag laws that allow a judge to temporarily remove firearms from people who are considered an imminent threat to themselves or others, a cooling off period for the purchase of a firearm, and regulations on high-capacity magazines for citizens. Quote, Texas has suffered more mass shootings over the past decade than any other state. In Sutherland Springs, 26 people died. At Santa Fe High School outside Houston, 10 people died. In El Paso, 23 people died at a Walmart. 7 people died in Midland, Odessa, the letter reads. After each of these mass killings, you have held press conferences and roundtables promising things would change. After the slaughter of 19 children and 2 teachers in Uvalde, these broken promises have never rung more hollow. The time to take real action is now, end quote. Such laws are likely to gain traction in the Republican-controlled legislature, which has a track record of favoring legislation that loosens gun restrictions. Only the governor has power to call lawmakers back into a special session for emergency work. Asked about a special session at a Friday press conference in Uvalde, Abbott said, quote, all options are on the table, end quote, adding that he believed laws would ultimately be passed to address this week's horrors. However, he suggested laws would be more tailored toward addressing mental health rather than gun control. Quote, you can expect robust discussion, and my hope is laws are passed that I will sign addressing health care in this state, end quote, he said. Quote, that status quo is unacceptable. This crime is unacceptable. We're not going to be here and do nothing about it. End quote. Yeah, that's what he says. He's going to do nothing. He resisted the idea of increasing the age to purchase a firearm, saying that since Texas became a state, 18-year-olds have been able to buy a gun. He also dismissed universal background checks, saying existing background check policies did not prevent the Santa Fe and Sutherland Springs shootings, which both happened while he has been in office. Quote, if everyone wants to seize upon a particular strategy and say that's the golden strategy right there, look at what happened in the Santa Fe shooting. A background check had no relevance because the shooter took the gun from his parents. Anyone who suggests we should focus on background checks as opposed to mental health, I suggest is mistaken. End quote. That's what he said. Since the massacre at Robb Elementary School, the governor's comments about potential solutions have centered around increasing mental health services rather than restricting access to firearms. But in the letter, state Democrats criticized the governor for blaming a, quote, broken mental health care system that you and other state leaders continue to underfund severely, end quote. Quote, we need evidence-based, common-sense safety gun laws. Without a doubt, if that at least some of the measures noted above had been passed since 2018, then many lives could have been saved, end quote, wrote the caucus. Abbott's office did not immediately respond to a request for comment about the letter. After the Santa Fe school shooting in 2018, Abbott released a variety of recommendations to address school safety, including a law to the legislature to consider a, quote, red flag, end quote, law. What in the world does that mean? I have no idea. At the time, Abbott claimed in his plan to improve school safety that similar protective orders releasing gun possession could have prevented the mass shootings in Sutherland Springs, southeast of San Antonio, and in Parkland, Florida. But Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and gun rights activists pushed back and the proposal died. By the end of 2019 legislative session, Abbott signed a package of school safety measures that primarily focused on expanding mental health resources and hardening school buildings. He expanded the number of school staff who could have a firearm on school grounds. He signed legislation at the end of 2019. When he signed legislation at the end of 2019, reporters asked if he still reported a red flag law. Abbott said such a measure wasn't necessary in Texas right now, end quote. Then Friday, Roland Gutierrez, the Democratic state senator who represents Uvalde, interrupted Abbott's press conference by walking to the front of the auditorium and urged the governor to bring lawmakers back for 3 weeks. Quote, we have to do something, man. Just call us back. So he was the second person besides Beto O'Rourke to get up and interrupt a press conference. In the hours after the shooting on Tuesday, Gutierrez told the Texas Tribune that the state needed to make it more difficult to obtain a firearm, especially the gun used by the shooter, an AR-15, which he called a, quote, weapon of mass destruction, end quote. Quote, there's not a hunter in Texas that utilizes these kind of weapons. And so I'm not saying let's take those kinds of weapons away. I'm saying that we should have some greater accessibility restriction. When you've got an 18-year-old kid getting his hands on this kind of weaponry, it makes no sense to me, end quote. So that's what he said. I think that's the end of the article. Yep, that's the end of the article. What say you, Deidre? You have an opinion that you want to express, or you want to talk about something else? Let's see what you want to say. So let's go back to the picture of me, and we take this out for now. And I don't know what you want to talk about, and I wish we could have more people, but We scheduled this show based on the availability of myself and of Andrea, who is on her way. I'm going to check with her to see if she's on her way and see what's going up with her. I guess she's still searching for her earbuds because she hasn't updated me. So anyway, what do we want to talk about? I can see what else is on. So see what. It's not in his best interest to change anything. Yep, that's all he cares about is politics. There's another article here about Uvalde. So maybe that's a good one to look into. So let me switch to sharing that. So go to share. So this is another article about Uvalde. So take the screen down. This is not us, said people in Uvalde. Okay, I have an update. I'm getting an update from Andrea. She says she can't find her headsets, so I'm telling her maybe she can join without them because pretty much one of us has to wear them. So this is not us. Tight-knit Uvalde, rooted in Texas history, navigates incalculable grief. Residents of this town, which is nicknamed the Crossroads of America, grapple with the horror of losing 21 lives. Okay, she says that she is going to join in chat because she can't find her headsets, and that's her only way of talking to us. So, okay, so join us in chat. Okay. And she probably needs the link. So back to the article. Sorry. Every time I do that, it just goes super fast. In the heart of this Texas town where US 83 and US Route 90 meet, there's a courthouse, a city hall, a post office, and 21 white wooden crosses. The intersection of two of the nation's longest highways gave the town the moniker the Crossroads of America. Now it marks an American tragedy. The crosses are a few feet tall. They face out in four directions from the pool and fountain in the town square. Bouquets are piled high at the foot of each. They stand together day and night, receiving grieved loved ones and anguished Uvalde residents. Quote, good times playing baseball with you, end quote, one child's handwriting said on the 10-year-old Jose Flores cross. A baseball was perched on its left branch. A snack bag of Flip's white fudge covered pretzels sat on top. Blue hearts in the middle of each cross, one for each victim of Tuesday's massacre when a gunman shot and killed 19 children and 2 teachers at Robb Elementary School, contain messages from dozens of loved ones. Quote, it's, in our last time together, we were happy, end quote, said the note of an 11-year-old named Miranda Mathis. You can see the pictures if I don't go by too fast. Uvalde is a predominantly Latino city with about 15,000 population on the border town of Eagle Pass in San Antonio. So it's east of that border town. The state's second largest city. Okay, so it's east of Eagle Pass and San Antonio is the second largest city. They talk about where the river flows through the town, so the Leona River flows through the town, and trees dominate the landscape. And so they talk about what type of town it is. Many residents say they are the descendants of people who were here before Texas was a state or an independent country. Quote, we've been here since it was Mexico and we stayed here when it became the United States, end quote, said Marcela Sanchez, age 33. The towns surrounding farms produce onions, melons, and more. An industry born by the many streams and rivers that crisscross Uvalde County. It's onion planting season now, which is why the air smells of that. And the same cool waters and lush landscape that support the agriculture industry turn many South Texans into frequent vacationers here. They hunt, swim, and sit under the stars that shine clear and bright beneath an expansive sky. Hello, Andrea. It's a blue-collar area where the median income is about $42,000. Population hasn't dramatically increased, the way many Texas cities and suburbs have. Still, residents, young and old, say there's been new places to shop and eat pop up along the main thoroughfare through the years. So we have 2 viewers so far. We have, do we have 3 viewers? Yes, we have 3 viewers. We have 2 viewers on YouTube and 1 viewer on Facebook. So I'm going to have to relay messages. So Deidre said hello when she signed in at 7:15 Eastern, 4:15 Pacific. And Deidre and I were talking about whether Governor Abbott would do anything to change the laws to increase the gun control. And we will go back to that topic. And so Deidre had a comment on that. Andrea has said hello. Andrea apologized for not being live. And Aaron signed in and said, why was the first word I heard onions? Apparently, Aaron does not like onions. So what was going on is to fill time, because I had already gone over the main topic, is I was describing from this article what the town of Uvalde is like. So I'm going to leave off on that. I'll come back to that later if we want to discuss that topic. And I'm going to go back to the main topic. So I'm going to go back to the main topic because that was just fill matter there. So let me get myself back up here, and we're going to go back to the main topic and discuss it again now that we have more viewers. So I'm going to remove that, go back to the main topic, and I'm going to share this. And pull back out. So I've already done a first read on this, so hopefully I won't stumble over the words so much this time. Okay, so this was the article that I picked for the main topic tonight. And the main topic, of course, is gun control, whether there will be anything done about it. And so this article talks about the Texas Senate Democrats calling for a special session to raise age to purchase a gun require universal background checks. And instead of reading it, I'm just going to skim over it. So basically what they did is they got together, they called for an emergency legislative session. And they were considering a variety of gun restrictions and safety measures in the wake of this shooting in Uvalde that killed the 19 children and the 2 adults. And they released this letter on Saturday morning. It was from all 13 Senate Democrats in the state of Texas. They're demanding a change in legislation to raise the age from 18 to 21 because the gunman was 18 years of age and he had purchased 2 AR-style rifles used in the attack. And they're calling for universal background checks for all firearm sales. And these are the red flag laws. So I've read 2 articles tonight while Deidre has been here, and one of the articles mentioned these red flag laws, and I was like, okay, what is that? They're not explaining what that is. So these are the laws that are called the red flag laws. So if we do go back to that other article, now you know what they are. Calling for background checks and trying to temporarily remove firearms from people who are considered imminent threat, and having a cooling off period, and regulations on high capacity magazines. And so the article goes on to explain why they want this. And the article goes on to explain that this isn't the only incident in Texas, that there was an incident where 26 people in Sutherland Springs, and there was another incident with 10 people dying in Houston and 23 dying at an El Paso Walmart, and 7 people died in Midland, Odessa. So it's not the only incident, obviously. Nothing's been done about anything of this sort with the other incidents. And so the legislators are saying, look, it's not just the children and the teachers, it's all these other things. We really should do something about this. So, but these laws are unlikely to get passed because of the Republican-controlled legislature there in Texas. And so they've preferred to loosen gun restrictions. When asked about having a special session, Abbott said that everything was on the table. But he goes on to say that he thinks that what needs to be done is in relationship to the type of people buying the guns. He doesn't support doing anything that makes it hard for everyone to get a gun. He wants to just keep saying that it's all about the person who did this shooting, and he's saying it's a mental health issue, and he goes on to say that, and that's what the rest of the article goes on to say. Because here it is right here. The Senate Democrats are criticizing the governor for blaming a, quote, broken mental health care system that you and other state leaders continue to underfund severely. So he's blaming the healthcare system, but he doesn't do anything to fund it to make it better. And so they go on to say that they need common sense gun safety laws, and he doesn't respond for comments, and he didn't do anything. He did call for similar laws after the Santa Fe shooting, but the article goes on to say that the lieutenant governor pushed back on this and the proposal died. So that's what's in the article. And that's what we read earlier with Deidre. And so Andrea asks, what can legislation do together? Legislation on gun control. When was this, before or after Uvalde? And said that I answered the question. So Abbott did support this kind of thing before Uvalde. The lieutenant governor did say no. The legislature did nothing back then, and now it's coming up again, and it's still not getting done. Okay. Is Texas going to abide by their new legislation? That's a good question. Andrea says Abbott's not going to support anything. And Aaron says it doesn't have to be either or. They can do both legislation and work on mental health. Yes, they could. Okay, so this other article that I was filling time with, as I said, was about Uvalde and what kind of town it is. I don't know if you want to get into all of that or not, because that was just filling matter. And Deidre says, if Abbott and the rest of them, the Republicans, are so concerned about mental health, why don't they require that you have mental health exams before letting them serve in Congress? Good one. Very good one. Yes. So what else do you have to say about this topic? What else would you like to talk about tonight? Remember that Freedom, Speech, and You is your show, and you do drive the topics. This was the opening topic for tonight's show. So here, Andrea asks, what are the chances of Abbott doing that? So Andrea says, I agree. I'm sure she's agreeing with Deidre. Yes, might be a good idea to have mental health exams for politicians to make sure that we don't get kooks in there that just continue to pass these laws and let more kooks have guns. Okay, so Andrea does agree with that. So what else would you like to discuss? Would you like to talk about the stuff that I heard on another show? I heard stuff about Boebert and her latest diatribe about, quote unquote, that 1,500 people in her estimation, or something that she read, have died from gunshots, from killings of this sort. And she claims that millions have died from abortion. She comes up with these figures from where, we don't know, but not from reality. And so she said something to the effect that 1,500 people is just a drop in the bucket. And so basically 1,500 dead people don't matter to her. She's only interested in abortion. So should we go out and search for that article? Are you interested in that? Andrea says you should have also finished high school to be in the House and the Senate. Deidre says Boebert and MTG are simply a waste of oxygen in space. Yes, they are. But yeah, I was seeing this earlier, something about Boebert and her opinion. So Boebert goes to rally. And let's see if we can pull that up. Unfortunately, so much of this stuff concerning her is just old news. So let me see if I can put today's date on it. I don't know where they got the clip. I wish I did. But she was going on and on and on about that sort of thing. I could bring up something funny. I could go to my Twitter. So let me just see if I can play this, because I found this little thing earlier today. So let me find this funny thing I found earlier today. They draw from old news because they have nothing else. Distract much. Yes, I'm sure what I'm looking for is on Midas. So let me go there. But let me see if I can get this to play, and so I will see if it'll play. I'll bring up the share screen, and so this is going to be here, and okay, let me stop it. See, the thing about bringing up one of these pages when it opens another page is you have to end up sharing the resulting page. So give me a second. I'll get that going. So this is what I wanted to share. And I'm going to take myself out of the screen, and I'm going to make it bigger. A little bit bigger. I could probably make it bigger than that. Or I could, yeah, that will work. That makes it big enough for you to see. Okay, so this is by Jane Godley, and this is her voiceover edit of Don Jr. saying something.
I've had enough of everything. Honest to God, I'm up to high dough with the whole lot of it. It's been on my mind and I have to get it out. I've no slept. I've no slept a fucking wink since last Tuesday. And this has been me. It's my dad, and then it was Ivanka, and then it was the whole insurrection thing, and people don't listen to me. All I ever wanted was a wee dog. Just a wee dog to play with, take out, call it Bobo, something, a good name. Maybe take it to the fucking park, maybe take it for a picnic, just go out with my pals. But no, I wasn't allowed a dog. I had to, you have to prove yourself, you have to prove you're good at looking after a dog, so I had to go and take a job and work for my dad. And I didn't want to work for my dad. I wanted to go and join the circus and do like dog tricks and play like, like get a wee dog to jump through a hoop or jump through a hoop of fire, or even like a wee dancing dog would be good. But no, I wasn't allowed any of that. I had to go work for my dad. I knew I'm fucking right.
So it's kind of high pitched. I don't know if you could understand any of that, but he starts off talking about his brother and sisters, and everything being about them. And, he just says that he couldn't get Dad's attention, and all he really wanted was a wee dog, a little dog of his own, and he talks about that, and he says that all he wanted was that. And so, despite everything else, he just wanted a little dog, and he wanted some kind of a toy to actually occupy his time. But no, instead he had to be a shill for his dad, pretty much. That's pretty much what it's about. I just thought it was really funny that she did that to his voice, because really, I mean, we all listen to his voice and we can't really take it. So, and something about dump trucks. Yeah, that's the toy. So that was the video I saw earlier. And so there was also another one. Let's see if I can find it. So give me a second here. Gotta load up the Discord and go find it. Where did that go? I know I put it up here earlier. Oh, no. Okay. Yeah, I'm in the wrong Discord. I put it in there. That's where it is. Okay. So here's the other one. And I need to stop this one for a bit. This is just funny information if it actually calls it up, but it might not show. Shoot. Okay, it's not going to show this, but that's okay. But what it was is it was a Instagram meme, and what the meme said was, a long time ago, there was a certain segment of the population that believed that the left testicle side produced females and the right testicle side produced males. And so people of that era would actually go to all the trouble to have the left testicle removed to try to make sure that they would have the male. Okay, good. It actually came up, but yeah, this is supposed to be something that happened in the Middle Ages. So, yeah, this is the meme. But I said, this is crazy. I have to share this with the people. So that's about as intelligent as some of the stuff that comes out of politicians' mouth nowadays. But yeah, this is the meme. And I will bring it up full size. So, yep, that was the meme, and that's just crazy that anybody would ever think that. But I just said, wow, I have to share that with the people tonight. You wonder if that centers on the idea that the right side is supposed to be the conservative side. And so that's why it was all whatever, I just don't know. It's just stupid as everything. There's no such thing, but whatever. So anyway, what do you want to talk about tonight? So now we have Deidre, we have Andrea, we have Aaron here, we have Jim here. Welcome, Jim. Welcome, Deidre. Welcome, Aaron. Welcome, Andrea. Looks like we have possibly somebody on Twitch, but I think that's my account possibly putting this out there for others to watch, because I see the Twitch number go on and off, and most of the time there's nobody in there. So And we're getting closer to the 8 o'clock Eastern hour, the 5 p.m. Pacific hour. Yes, we did talk about gun control earlier. We had an article, and I will ask the room if everybody wants to talk about it, but you can tell us what you think about it. The article that I read earlier and then summarized had to do with the fact that at a previous shooting in 2018, the Democrats had proposed legislation, or the governor had even proposed the same kind of legislation to limit the types and availability of guns and the ages. But when he proposed it back in 2018, the lieutenant governor rejected the idea. And so it never went through back in 2018. And so some of the stuff that we went over tonight was the fact that the Uvalde shooting is not the only shooting that has occurred in Texas. There were 1, 2, 3, 4 other named shootings, and the number of people died was somewhere between 7 and 26 with each of those shootings. And that Abbott is not really for gun control now. He is more into mental health control. But the Democrats who drafted the legislation, there's 13 of them in the Senate, all 13 of them drafted this legislation, and they're asking him to bring back the laws that he proposed in 2018, but he's not into it. And so you've got, things going there that just probably not going to change at all. Jim says the only thing I'm adamant about is that there should be no concealed carry, only open carry. If there's carry at all, everyone around you should know you're carrying. I don't know. How does everybody else feel about that? Some people would have a problem with open carry because then, their kid would see guns that they wouldn't otherwise see. And so some people may feel more threatened visibly seeing the gun just because it's displayed and easier to use. I don't know. Not going to express an opinion. What is everyone else's opinion? But yeah, it seems like things are not really going to change in Texas, as we can see from the news. But the 13th Senate Democrats are really trying, and so that's where they are. Oh, the other thing that we went over was the fact that Beto O'Rourke was not the only person to get up and interrupt a press conference. There was another person who got up and interrupted one of Abbott's press conferences. And Abbott cut $211 million from the Texas mental health budget. Yes, that's what the 13 Democratic senators said. They didn't actually mention that figure, but they said that he can't claim to want to do something about it if he and the other Republicans are going to underfund it. So Jim says, good, everyone should feel threatened when someone has a gun. And Andrea just sent me a thing that I should show you, so I'm going to do that, and you can share your own ideas. So go to Twitter for this. Yes, thank you. I see that you did send something to play. Probably misspelled her last name. Yeah. Yep. Well, I tried to type it. Try that again. Jim says, didn't Abbott say he was going to eliminate rape too? And I'm looking to see what Andrea is sharing. Deidre says, I'm not comfortable having just some random people carrying guns just for the fuck of it. Not cool that your insecurities manifest themselves into needed weapons in a modern time. So I'm trying to see what Andrea is sharing because I'm... Yep, that's what I thought you wanted to share. Okay, so I've got that up. Let me bring that up. Let me take it back to the beginning and pause it. Let me get the share going. So get the share on. Here we go with the share. Okay, so there's the share. Now we're going to make it big. Now I'm going to get myself out of the image. Come on, mouse. Go back where you belong. Okay, here we go.
Hi. I'm glad that you said that you're a Marine Corps veteran because I wanted to bring this point up. How many times a year do you have to go as a Marine to re-qualify and prove that you are competent and proficient in the weapons that you have been issued? I'll answer that for you as a former rifle pistol coach in the Marine Corps. You have to go annually. And how long does that take? 2 weeks, right? You have a week of grass week and then a week of live fire. Isn't that right? So in the Marine Corps, you have to go for 2 weeks out of your life and prove to the Marine Corps that you are still proficient in the weapons that have been issued to you. Now let's take it a step further. Let's say you're a private through a sergeant that's living in the barracks in the Marine Corps. Are you allowed to store a firearm in your barracks room? The answer is no, you are not. If you privately own a weapon, you have to go and register that weapon with the Provost Marshal's office, and then they issue a receipt to you saying where your weapon will be stored and kept safe for you. Why is it that the United States Marine Corps, the finest fighting force on the planet, is more restrictive in who and where firearms can be stored and possessed than the average 18-year-old in the state of Texas? Why? You see, your plan is to just do nothing and ignore the problem and continue to pray and hope that it goes away. Well, guess what, Erica? That's not fucking working. Okay? That is not fucking working. Let's look at the Second Amendment for a second. All right. The Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia. If you believe that the Second Amendment applies to all citizens and all citizens are supposed to be that militia, what do you think well-regulated means? It doesn't mean no regulations. Jesus Christ. Why is this so fucking hard to understand? Doing nothing makes it easier for children to get slaughtered in their schools. Fuck all the way off.
Absolutely agree with him. If you do nothing, you're allowing everything to get much worse. And that, I'm not sure exactly who he's responding to, but I'm sure he's responding in general to all of these people. Now, while that video was being loaded and played, Jim said this. Someone from Uvalde yelled, quote, do something, end quote, to President Biden when he was there, but the voters there elected the mayor, the police chief, the school police chief, and the school board, who all screwed up. Jim continues, this yeller should do something, it's up to him. Exactly, Jim. I agree. Andrea said, yes, they all failed. Feds have taken over. Correct. Because nobody did anything for, I believe it was 90 minutes. And so, you know, there's 90 minutes of people's lives. I also saw something. I saw something today. I'm not sure if I saw it on social media or if I saw it on NBC. I think I saw it on NBC this morning, and they said that it probably was a Midas Touch, I'm going to say, because I did watch a little bit of NBC. But anyway, somebody said, and it could have been the Midas Touch guys, Tony and his partner, Gabe, that there was, not only did they not stop the shooting for 90 minutes, but there are allegations that while they were not doing anything for the general populace of students and teachers, they went in and they got their own kids out of there. The police did. They got their own kids out of there. We have to see if this proves to be true or not. But if they did that, that is reprehensible beyond all belief. Jim responds to the video, fuck all the way off, and laughs. Yes. Well, you know, Jim, he had to say something. I mean, he basically had to tell them how extremely pissed he was with them for their stance of, you know, everybody can have whatever guns they want. The Constitution definitely does not say that. It says a well-regulated militia. So it should be regulated. And Andrea corrects me and says Midas Touch brothers. Yes, the Midas Touch brothers, but the podcast that I'm talking about is the Tony Michaels show with Tony and Gabe. So Tony and Gabe are not brothers, but they're carried by Midas Touch. So that's a new podcast that's been going around. It actually comes on the same time as Hal's morning show. And apparently it repeats about an hour before this show comes on. So they have like a Sunday repeat of topics, and that was on. So that might be where some of our friends are. Got their own kids out and then stayed outside. Yes, that's the allegation, Jim. Deidre says reprehensible. A lot of that going on. So Andrea has suggested that I look at Midas Touch, and I'm sure that I can find something up there. So let me do that. So as a matter of fact, if I could remember the name of the thing that they put on it, instead of going to Midas Touch, I'm going to go to Tony Michaels' show and see if it's on there. Tony Michaels show. Because, okay, so he's protected his tweets, so we can't see. So we have to go back to Midas Touch. Probably because everybody's ripping off his content. I don't blame him. There is a video that's on there where Footage from the shooting in Texas appears to show police in Uvalde restraining parents and even pinning one to the ground rather than confronting the shooter as he was slaughtering their children. Jim says, I have no kids, but I am livid. Yeah, well, you don't have to have kids to want to advocate for their safety. Because after all, if you don't advocate for their safety, then we just end up with this wackiness that keeps going on. Jim says, I've been enraged all week. Got to disconnect from news for a few days to regain my sanity. Hope there's no mass shooting during that time. Agreed, Jim. Andreas says, it took a federal border agent who got a text from his daughter, Daddy, they're shooting. Then from his wife, since she was a teacher there, he got up from a barber chair, got the barber's gun, and went over to take care of things. The school kicked in the door and killed the shooter. So he's the one that killed the shooter. Okay. So that's in the Fed's hands. I wonder if I can find. Let me see. No, that doesn't work. See, the video that I saw had like another tag on it rather than Midas touch. It was kind of like a certain tag. And if I remembered what the tag was, then maybe I could search for that. Jim says, sorry, sometimes I switch letters when I type. Oh yeah. If you type with your fingers without looking at the keyboard, you can do that. I type badly and I use I use the thing on the phone that self-types, and I try to correct it as I go, but I find now with the new phone it's harder because I can't just click on the words immediately and get to what I want to. This is from 7 days ago. This is an interesting one that maybe I could show you, but I like to find what I was looking for. I just wish I knew what the label was on it because it was something other than Midas touch. Deidre says, been up way too long. Good night, all. Good night, Deidre. Thank you for joining us tonight. Go look on there. I'm interested to see what she says. So let's see what she says. I'll bring up this video without knowing what she's going to say, and let's just see what she's talking about. So give me a second. Gotta wind it back. Gotta stop it. Okay. Let's see what Politics Girl is saying in her latest video. I always hear people talk about her, and I haven't actually watched her show, so this should be interesting. So let's see, what has she got to say? I want to get myself out of the screen, and here we go.
How much longer are we going to do this? Enough has been enough for decades. And yet the minority of the country in a bankrupted, Russian-funded lobby group run by sociopaths still allows us to live in a country where we can be gunned down by weapons of war just going about our daily lives, and we call that freedom. We had to have a lockdown quarantine to stop our citizens from being murdered. But now that we're getting back to normal, that means a return to daily mass shootings? Fuck you. No way. America, the country where owning an arsenal of weapons is as easy as buying a stick of gum. But voting is now going to require 15 hoops and the right color of skin. Fuck you. No way. Land of the free? Hardly. How free are we if we can't go to work, to school, to the grocery store, drive in our cars, go to a concert, a nightclub, or even be in our own home without worrying we might get shot to death by our domestic partner or some guy who can't get laid, or a disgruntled worker, or an alienated teenager, or some fucking guy who thinks the world owes him? Why are our lives so much less important than your weapons? This country has a lot of problems, but I would argue none as big as patriarchal white supremacy coupled with easy access to firearms. Fuck you. We're done. How much longer are we going to do this? Enough has been enough for decades. And yet
I could let that replay. I definitely could, but I think you heard it the first time through. Absolutely agree with what she said. So that was a good choice. Let's see what else we can find. This and see what happens. Okay, this would be nice. This is a feel-good story. So let's talk about this. This is a slightly different topic. So let's do this just to put in a feel-good story. I got that. I see what I want to do. Okay. So these are young students who have done something tremendous despite the fact that their country is fighting a war.
I was very proud of the fact that Ukrainian delegation could participate in ISAF under these circumstances, and it was really important for me to show that Ukraine is a strong country in the field of science as well. The main goal of my project was to obtain new analogs of anti-cancer drugs active substance called photomustine. And these analogs, they have a potential to be more effective and less toxic comparing to photomustine itself. And one of the objectives of the study was to make these analogs more water soluble.
The development of project was something around 1 year, and idea was a bit earlier. I believe that programming education is very important nowadays because it's everywhere, and I think that everyone should be able to write code, even students from elementary schools. And my project is trying to make it easier for elementary school students to start writing code.
I moved to Paris on 6th of March because the war started in my country. My mom and my small sister, she's almost 4, they are in Spain, and they left from Ukraine later than me. And my stepfather is in Kiev now. He continues working. I'm not really sure about the like when we are going to meet again. Now I'm studying in Paris in bilingual school because I don't speak French. And I also continue studying in Ukrainian school online to get Ukrainian certificates. I want to come back to Kiev, but there is a lot of uncertainty now. And yes, and with university next year, it's very difficult question. Chemistry is a practical science, and you have to do something with your hands in the lab. And of course, I would like to try to study in foreign university, but I mean, I'm not really sure that it will be possible next year for me because there are a lot of problems with that, like starting like from cost and finishing with my emotional state and the fact that I want to come back to Kiev as soon as possible. And it's very hard for me to be in another country. I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm really in good conditions, but emotionally it's still difficult.
From Odessa, we went to Ismail. It's a city near the border with Moldova, because we thought that war will end soon. And then we moved to Moldova, stayed there for a week, I think. Then we decided to move to Latvia to my grandmother.
Okay, so I did find what I'm looking for, and I thank you for watching that in the interim. I did find who posted it. I just have to find the tweet itself. So give me a moment here and I will find the tweet. Because I know who posted it and I know which person from Midas Touch posted it. I just have to figure out where she posted it. Maybe it's under her media tab. Let's see. Okay, there's that. Because she's very active. It's Midas Robin that posted it. So I just have to see like how many hours ago she posted it. So give me a moment to keep scrolling through her Twitter and find the video that I want to show. Meanwhile, as I scroll through her video, she has an acronym for the NRA, Never Republican Action. Perfect. That describes the NRA very accurately. Just wondered, like, how many days ago did she get this information? And is it something that I can only see a certain way? So let me keep going through it and see if I can find it. And if I have to, maybe I can just pull up their show and shuttle it to the place where they talk about it. But I'd have to remember what moment of the show that was. So that's not going to be super easy. But I suppose if I have to. So let me see. A moment ago, okay, so that's his podcast. Okay. Yay! I found it. Yay! All right. So now pause this video so it's not playing before I bring it up. Share the tab. Enlarge the video. Take myself out of the screen and push play.
On Tuesday, May 24th, 19 young children and 2 adults were killed in a school shooting in Uvalde, Texas. It took over 90 minutes to stop the shooter, but it has now been revealed that some police officers breached the school to get their own children out before the shooter was taken down. Texas law enforcement officials have changed their stories so many times, I wouldn't be surprised if we find out they personally escorted the gunman into the school. This was the deadliest American school shooting since the 2012 massacre at Sandy Hook Elementary. This is the 27th school shooting this year. We have had 213 mass shootings in less than 6 months of 2022. You don't need to be enrolled in Ron DeSantis' School of Banned Mathematics to know how bad these numbers are. The Uvalde shooting happened just 10 days after the horrific shooting at the Buffalo supermarket on May 14th. We unfortunately live in a country where guns outnumber people and gun violence has become an everyday occurrence. The correlation between the number of guns in America and the number of gun-related deaths in America is undeniable. Maybe the slaughtering of innocent children is a wake-up call for Republicans. They are the pro-life party after all, and they've said on multiple occasions they want to save the children. I'm sure by now Texas Senator Ted Cruz has offered a solution.
And one of the things that everyone agreed is don't have all of these unlocked back doors. Have one door into and out of the school.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Have one door into and out of the school.
His solution to mass shootings is one door. I mean, why stop there? Let's make it a doggy door instead. That's small enough for children to fit through. You know, for a brief moment, I really thought Ted Cruz was going to be helpful. And then I remembered that Ted Cruz also tried to ban dildos. Okay, forget Cancun Cruz. Let's try Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton.
We need to continue to try to focus on preventing this. We can't stop bad people from doing bad things. They're going to violate murder laws. They're not going to follow gun laws. I've never understood that argument. But we can harden these schools. We can create points of access that are difficult to get through. We can potentially arm and prepare and train teachers and other administrators to respond quickly, because the reality is we don't have the resources to have law enforcement at every school.
Hold on. The GOP, who is notorious for banning books and not giving teachers school supplies, wants to give teachers guns instead? Giving teachers guns and placing armed guards in schools does not protect students from mass shootings. In fact, one study found that schools with armed guards were more likely to have a higher death toll during a mass shooting. But in Ken Paxton's fantasy world, a teacher arrives on their first day at Remington Rifle Elementary and goes through their classroom checklist. Construction paper? Check. Erasers? Check. 9mm Smith & Wesson? Check. And then, of course, when that plan ultimately fails, arming those children that Republicans forced women to birth is their backup plan. Because nothing stops a bad guy with a gun like a child with a gun. And I can see it now. Little Timmy goes off to school with his bulletproof backpack, an AR-15, and a Toy Story lunchbox full of bullets. I'm sorry, but the fact that we live in a country that assumes a random civilian should risk their own life to save another is incredibly deranged. But now that I think about it, maybe we shouldn't take advice from the guy that's currently being investigated by the FBI. Also, how did this guy just win his primary? Anyway, why don't we just go further up the leadership chain and try Texas Governor Greg Abbott? Oh, here's a tweet from Abbott where he talks about gun ownership. I'm embarrassed. Texas #2 in nation for new gun purchases behind California. Let's pick up the pace, Texans. at NRA. Okay, that's embarrassing. I didn't fully read the tweet until right now. Okay, here's a video of Abbott signing gun legislation in 2021. I'm sure this prevents future shootings.
I'm signing 7 laws that protect Second Amendment rights in the Lone Star State.
Joined by Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, House Speaker Dade Phelan, several Republican lawmakers and members of the National Rifle Association, that new laws will expand gun rights for Texans. The first law he signed is what was being called the Constitutional Carry Bill, which gets rid of the licensing and training requirement for Texans who are 21 years or older to carry a pistol.
Those who believe and support Second Amendment rights, we support the right of every law-abiding American to be able to have a weapon to defend themselves.
Jesus Christ, does any Texas lawmaker actually care about human life? Don't answer that. The sad truth is there have been 8 mass shootings in Texas over the past 13 years, all while lawmakers have steadily loosened restrictions on carrying firearms. Marjorie Taylor Greene and every other deplorable Republican want to point fingers and blame others like they're just playing a game of Clue. I'm sorry to ruin the game, but it was not Professor Woke in the library with CRT. It was the gun. It's always been the fucking gun. Republicans love to blame mental illness for mass shootings. So if it's such a problem like they say it is, then why haven't they done anything to care for those suffering? If it's such a problem, why did Trump make it easier for those with mental illness to get guns when he rolled back an Obama-era regulation? If it's such a problem, why didn't they say no? I'll tell you why. It's because Republicans don't care about you or anyone else. So when exactly will Republicans start caring? 500 mass shootings per year? 800? 1,000? How many more innocent lives have to die because of some weird fetish that Republicans have with guns? 90% of Americans support background checks on gun purchases, but Republican politicians? They're holding our country hostage at gunpoint. We are tired of waiting. We need to vote these politicians out of office, because if we don't, they will continue to send their empty thoughts and prayers and happily take donations from the NRA and speak at their conventions just days after a mass shooting where children were murdered. The time for gun reform is past due. We need to stand up and make our voices heard. A great example of this is when Beto O'Rourke confronted Greg Abbott at his conference for the Uvalde mass shooting.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Sit down.
You're out of line and an embarrassment.
Sit down and don't play this.
The next shooting is right now, and you are doing nothing.
No, he needs to get his ass out of here. This isn't the place to talk this over.
This is totally predictable when you...
Sir, you're out of line. Sir, you are out of line. Sir, you are out of line. Please leave this auditorium.
So I leave you with this. In a world of Greg Abbotts, be a Beto O'Rourke.
So we thank Midas Touch, Gabe Sanchez. Sorry about that. Slight technical mistake. We thank Midas Touch, Gabe Sanchez, MSNBC for the actual footage, for all of that. That was really good. And that was what I saw a tidbit of earlier on the show that Gabe does with Tony. I'm going to forget the name of this show. I'm sorry, but it's on the Modest Touch Network. You can find it out there. Oh, Tony Michaels Show. The Tony Michaels Show is the full title. So, yeah. Look for that. That's on at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. PST, most weekdays. So obviously you're not going to watch it when Hal is on, but you can watch it on the days when he's not on, or you can watch it later. So, and then Abbott banned all the reporters who followed Beto out of that presser. Did he really? Wow. That's really something. So, any other topics you have for tonight? The guy that called Beto a son of a bitch is the mayor of Uvalde. Not surprising, Jim. Not surprising. Republicans use some of the worst language. Doesn't mean that Democrats don't use it, but Republicans use it like, that's good political discourse. So, what whatever. So let's see, what else do we have? Any other things on Twitter or Facebook or wherever, that YouTube perhaps, that you've seen that you want to do? I'm curious, if I search for what was that, what else will I find? Oops, that was not good. Okay, I kicked something, but at least I didn't kick my camera. Okay. So let's see, what was that on Twitter? No, that's apparently there's more than one thing called that. So let's see if it's Midas touch. No, that doesn't come up either. So they must have just used that logo for that first video in that series. So what else? Want to put this on the screen. You can call or text us at 321-613-8591. If you're watching this now or later, those of you in the United States will get a response if you're calling or texting us with something that's interesting, like if you want to be on the show or if you have a show topic. If you're outside of the United States, you should use the email address for me, kenotto21@yahoo.com, or for Andrea, adm34_3427@yahoo.com. And when you want to share our show, you can share that website, kenotto21.wixsite.com/freedom-speech-and. So make sure that you have live chat selected or you may miss something. Yep, on YouTube. Yep. I wish YouTube would default to live chat. I don't know why it has to default to top chat, because that is annoying me all the time when I use YouTube. Jim says, the First Amendment's more important than the Second Amendment. If the founders wanted gun freedom to be most important, they would have put it first. Yes. Andrea says, doesn't surprise me. Why doesn't Texas secede from the USA? You know, that was a topic the other day about Texas seceding from the USA on, what do they call their show? It's the show with Lincoln's Bible, or she sometimes goes LB. John always calls her LB, and Greg Ollier. And they had that topic the other day on their show. I think the show is called The 8-5, and it's on YouTube. So look for it. It's it's numeral 8, FIVE, but just kind of look around, see if you can find it. You should be able to find it on Lincoln's Bible Twitter or on Greg Ollier's Twitter. But anyway, that was a topic the other day. Why wouldn't Texas succeed? And they wanted Texas to succeed from the USA. The problem there, though, is that if they do that, then they don't have any protections from the USA. And so they talked about the fact that if that were to happen, then Texas just basically becomes a buffer state without any kind of federal protection. And it also loses everything else, because it wouldn't have Social Security, wouldn't have any federal programs at all whatsoever, no road programs, none of that. I mean, yes, they would, if they really succeeded in succeeding, they wouldn't have to pay taxes, but they wouldn't get anything either. So Andrea agrees with Jim. Says live on my end. Yeah. But I think what Aaron was talking about was the fact that if you join on YouTube, you go into what's called Top Chat. And so if you don't select live chat, then you're not going to see all of the chats. You're just going to see the top chatters. And I don't know where they come up with the algorithm of what is top chat. Jim says, Andrea, Oklahoma and Arkansas aren't any better. We'd have to excise the whole southern part of the U.S., and Florida isn't any better either. See, but the problem I have with that is, if you live in one of these states that everybody wants to get rid of, then what are you going to do? If you don't have the money to move, you're basically now out in the cold without the protection of the United States if your states do this, or if the government does this. And so you're out in the cold. And also, let's suppose your only job is in that state. Now you're stuck with a job that, you're not even an American citizen anymore. Is America going to come and protect you if you claim to be an American citizen? You need to answer all those questions, because you're basically saying that, if you want to get rid of all the Republicans, are you going to then send, military planes to get all the Democrats out of those states? And are you going to compensate us for the loss of our property? I mean, so you got big problems when you start doing this. It's much better to just try to correct what exists. I mean, it's real easy to talk about getting rid of states, but if you do that, then you're going to create all these problems. And so Jim says, and the Texas military bases and space facilities would be defunded as well. Exactly. And what happens to those things? What happens to the assets on those bases? Now you've given a non-U.S. state those assets, probably, because you probably won't go in there and get them by force. So you got real problems if you start doing this stuff. I mean, it sounds real good postulating about it, but it isn't really good once you actually do it. Jim says it's silly to suggest we let states succeed because that's what Civil War was fought over. Exactly. I mean, there you go. I mean, you just fight the Civil War all over again, and you're basically enabling those who think that the Civil War was such a wonderful thing to do. You're enabling them to run rampant, because now you have no federal law jurisdiction over them at all whatsoever. So, not such a great idea. So, what else do you want to talk about, or have we exhausted all the topics for this evening? I guess Texas doesn't get that, says Andrea. No, they don't. They don't get the fact that they would have no protection, because if they succeed, I have so much trouble saying that, and also not saying succeed. If they leave the Union of the United States, then Russia could attack them, and Russia could say, okay, we take over Texas. Big problem. Yes, Jim, the rest of the country has to try to keep progressing and try to bring them along with us. Exactly. Let's just hope that all of this stuff about abortion brings out the people that have not voted, and then they can, change the demographic of Texas and how people vote. Okay, sorry folks, I have to drink water. Can't do all that talking without something to calm the throat. And I don't have Andrea to hide behind tonight, so I can't just take myself off camera and mute the microphone. So Andrea says they can't even keep their people warm during a blizzard. Correct. Would we come to their aid when the Mexican cartels invade Texas? That's a good question. Yep. They haven't thought it through. They seem to think that they would be good on their own, but they haven't really thought it through. They're just blowing steam about what they want to do, but they definitely have not thought through what it would happen. And it's almost a shame that we can't just demonstrate to them what would happen and then have them go, no, wait a minute, don't do that. Andrea says hard for us to bring them along when they don't even want to follow the Constitution. Correct. Very hard. Very hard. So just kind of wonder, any more topics you want to discuss tonight, or you want to call it quits for the night? What are your thoughts? Got 3 of you. Let's see what you have to say. Jim says, what's with the low profile, Andrea? I thought you were a co-host. Jim, her children in the house absconded with her headset, so she couldn't participate tonight. She didn't have any way to speak. And she didn't want to do all night. Really, she's just making sure that I can do things on my own. That's really what she's doing. She could have the headset, but I trust her. I don't believe she has the headset. I think they just walked off with the headset. So, yep. I'm about to scoot, says Aaron, because Fear of the Walking Dead starts at 9. Okay, enjoy. Obviously, you like the scary stuff. Andrea says, I mean, they can't even do their jobs as law enforcement to do something simple as protect other kids, but yet protect their own. Jim says, sorry, I was late, but I've run out of talking. That's okay. They are in Miami. Yep. Your headsets are in Miami. That's a little far to go to get a headset back. And unfortunately, the dollar store headsets are not that good. And then usually the dollar store headsets are just for listening and not talking. Although this one is actually capable of being for talking, but I'm not using the microphone on this. I'm using the big microphone that I have to my left. So, yeah. Yeah, the dollar store headsets are like horrendously bad. I wouldn't wish those on anybody. These I actually got at Publix, where shopping's a pleasure. These were the same ones I bought somewhere else, and then I found 2 more of them, and so I bought them. So I actually had 3 of these headsets. So that I always have like the one that I use here and the one that I use with my phone and the one spare. So, yep, I recommend having spares because you never know what can happen to them. So, Five Below, yeah, that's a good place. The only reason I don't rush off to Five Below that other people do is because it's a little bit of a trek for me, but I guess I can go there every once in a while. Andrea says she went to Walmart to try to get wireless ones and they were out. Yeah. My problem with wireless ones is I wouldn't know which ones I would want to buy, and I would hate to spend a lot of money on wireless ones, but I have to admit that when I use this one and I go shopping, I really wish that I had a wireless one so that I could listen and stuff and not have issues. So, but whatever. We don't have Five Below here. We have Five Below within 25 miles of me. So, but yeah, a lot of the places that I would shop that aren't just like Walmart or the grocery store, I'd have to go to the main city in my county instead of shopping in my own hometown, because just don't have a lot of stuff here. So I wonder what else is out there tonight. What did Hal Sparks tweet out about today? Let's see. Interesting stuff. He didn't do a lot of tweeting today. He's enjoying his Sunday, so that's all good. I don't blame him. He had a lot of stuff to do. What did they tweet about today? They tweeted about their show. Does anybody want to hear about my concert last night? Probably not. Go to Titus on YouTube, Christopher Titus. Okay, Titus on YouTube. Good night, Jim. Do you see anything particularly good on Christopher Titus, Andrea? He's got things. He's got one on there called Civil War, the Reboot, or Just a Retruth from 2 days ago. He's got a video about Uvalde. It says, "Is it political?" Christopher Titus Armageddon update. That's from 3 days ago. The one about Uvalde in Buffalo? Is that the one you want, Andrea? Okay, that's the one you want. So let's get that set up. And bring it up, and we'll take me out of the equation and full screen this. Yeah, it's round. Okay.
I'm Christopher Titus, and this is the Armageddon Update. Our first podcast that we ever did was about the Gabby Gifford shooting, and that was 11 years ago. And today, more than a decade later, I drove to the studio crying. I was listening to them read about the 19 kids that were slaughtered in Texas and the teachers that tried to protect those kids. And last week, I was driving to the studio and I cried as I heard a daughter in Buffalo screaming that her mother and her were supposed to go see the Temptations and the tickets were still on the table. This could be about any of us, and more frequently it is. Nowhere else in the world is there this much gun death. I mean, except, Ukraine. And people say, let's don't make it political. But that's what it is, because it's not all of us letting this happen. It's not both sides taking money from gun manufacturers and the NRA. It's only one side, the Republicans. And in my opinion, the Republican Party is the party of death. And it's not just guns, people, it's healthcare. The rest of the world has healthcare. Guess what? They don't die sick and bankrupt like we do here, owing thousands in medical bills, killing any shot for generational wealth, or dying years earlier because you can't even afford to go to urgent care. The GOP cuts regulations for pollution, clean air, clean water, so you die earlier. They told their own constituents that wearing a mask or getting vaccinated was losing their freedom. The death toll for Republican voters from COVID is 2.26 times higher than Democratic voters. Do you get that? The GOP said it was a hoax. The GOP is the party of death. And economics, okay, they voted against a bump in your minimum wage. Republicans blocked you making more money. It's been shown that income relates to how long you live. Do you know that? They convinced their voters that government health care was taking away your freedom, and that everyone having voting rights was taking away your freedom, that gay people getting married takes away your freedom, that for trans kids countrywide playing softball somehow takes away your freedom, that a woman having a right to her own body is taking away your freedom, that sound gun laws that work worldwide take away your freedom. With these little kids, they lost all their freedom forever, and their parents will never be free from the pain. 10 people in Buffalo lost their freedom, and their families will never be free from the devastating grief, ever. And I know I'm just a dipshit comedian with a podcast, because that's a thing now. But my daughter had a shooting at her school in front of it. Her best friend was shot. He lived. My son was at the school when it went off, and he ran. Both my kids got lucky, but our kids live with that every day. A low-level fear that at any time, any moment, they can be fucking killed. You know, my wife and I both clock the exits when we go to a store or a restaurant. In America, you have to actually do recon before you can order an entree. My mom and my lovely sister both shot themselves to death because the man that they were living with just had guns lying around, not locked up. And the Democrats, man, they keep putting legislation forward, and the Republicans keep on blocking it. And these are just facts. But the fact is, the GOP is the party of death. You know, we have a mass shooting at least once a week, and we have so many mass shootings, most don't make the news anymore. Hell, after we got 600 shot and 59 dead in Vegas, you got to bring the heat to make it to prime time. You know, it's like we saw the card trick and we got bored. Now, to really make an impact, 10 black people in a supermarket just isn't enough. You got to cut 19 kids and 2 teachers in half with an AR-15. And I watched today as Greg Abbott talked about pain and sadness while his assistant booked him a fucking ride to the NRA convention. Mitt Romney put out a thoughts and prayers tweet while he counted the $13 million that he got from the NRA. So it's a political issue because the only reason it keeps happening is because of politics. The GOP is literally voting in favor of killing Americans for money. The GOP is the party of death. And to all of you touched by gun violence, and boy, we are a club that just fucking keeps getting bigger, isn't it? Fight, vote. Let's get rid of this party of death in the next election, okay? And just make America party again. Mappa. I'm Christopher Titus, and this is the Armageddon Update. Little kids, man.
Right on, Christopher Titus. Right on. That was absolutely correct. Good night, Aaron. Excuse me. Yeah, that was good. So now that it's just Andrea and I, are we ready to close the show since we're at 2 hours? Roughly at 2 hours, I think. An hour and 48 and a half. Okay, I guess we'll close the show and we'll be back next week with another topic. It would be nice if we could come back next week with the topic that says that they passed some legislation to regulate guns that actually stop some of this killing going on. We hold out hope that that's actually what happens. Thank you for joining us on Freedom, Speech, and You. See you next week.